If you have a garden and you have chickens, but you don't have a compost, then you're definitely missing out on the benefits. Now, inside a chicken coop, you're going to find a ton of bedding and a ton of chicken droppings. Now, that's going to be a perfect mixture of greens and browns that go into compost. If you don't remember what the greens and browns are, you can look back at my past video. Now, to start with, you want to make sure that your chickens are out of the coop. Chickens are known for respiratory issues, and dusty situations are not good for them. So I make sure that I do this after they are done laying their eggs for the day, but with plenty of time that the dust can settle before they bed down for the night. Now I take just a pair of gloves, and to clean out the nesting boxes, I find the easiest thing for me is just to scoop it out with my hands, scoop it into the main area. So that's what I'm doing here. It's just important to make sure that you get the nesting box area as clean as possible. I've noticed with my hens, sometimes they'll stop laying if I don't clean it out good enough, so they can be picky. Now from there, I'm going to take a flat shovel, and I'm just going to take the flat end and just scrape it into this storage tote that I have that I just keep underneath my coop. And this is going to scoop out all of the bedding and all of the droppings from the chickens. Pay special attention to underneath the roosting bars, because that part is going to be, it can be a mess. Now the nesting boxes themselves don't need all that much bedding, just enough to make it comfortable and to make it so that you're not going to have the chickens break the eggs by sitting on them on bare boards. But I had more bedding in here than I actually need, and that's just because we've had some pretty wet weather, and I just threw that in there to try to keep it dry. Now what I've started using more recently are these pine shavings that have been filtered so that they're 99% dust free. They're a little bit more expensive, but that is what I like to use, that either coupled in with a little bit of the pine shavings and straw, but predominantly the dust-free pine bedding. And then I'll put back in the fake eggs to help the chickens know where to lay. And then I'll just close up and let the dust settle, and I'll take this over to the compost. Another green that I like to use in my compost are coffee grounds, which Starbucks gives out for free. So anytime I find these, I grab them. The coffee grounds themselves are relatively rich in nitrogen, which allows the bacteria great energy. Now I'm just going to dig down into the compost bin so that I can get down deep enough to make a difference here, because you want a good even mixture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig down, and then I'm just going to layer it in, a little bit of the bedding, a little bit of the chicken droppings, a little bit of the coffee grounds, because my compost pile had actually gone cool. It was brown heavy and green deficient. It didn't have enough energy producing chemicals for the bacteria, such as nitrogen. So then I just shuffle that in really good with a pitchfork and repeat the process. You want to make sure that you get this all mixed in really well, and that you avoid any layers where the bedding is just going to sit on itself, or where if you're using leaves or cardboard, you want it to be mixed out really well. You don't want it just to sit on itself in layers, because when you go to mix in or dig that soil out, you're going to find that it's just still sitting there in a clump. It breaks down much slower if it's not mixed in evenly. Now remember the key components for compost here. You want your browns and greens in a healthy mixture of both, but you also need oxygen and you need moisture. So by stirring your pile on a regular basis, and especially initially, that's going to create tiny pockets of air, and that's what's going to allow these microbes to break down everything in your compost pile and turn it into soil. So if you don't continue to stir your compost pile, you're not going to have the oxygen you need. The same goes with moisture though. You need it to be damp like a sponge, but you don't want it to be dripping wet. If it's too wet, it's probably just going to be a soggy bog and smell. Too dry, it's not going to be doing anything. So you want it to be damp like a sponge, and that requires spraying water on it. Now when I'm done mixing all this in, it should be well mixed in throughout. I don't want it to be in clumps. So a good mixture is what you're really looking for.